this man could be the tallest player in basketball history. Meet redshirt freshman Olivier Rioux.
They said he was too tall to play. In the NBA, there was a time when being tall was all you needed to dominate basketball. A time when players like George Muresan, Shawn Bradley, and Yao Ming were treated like anomalies, living monuments on the court, unignorable simply because of their height. But that era is over, and in its place stands a new generation of skilled giants, where finesse, mobility, and adaptability now matter more than just inches. Enter Olivier Rioux, a name that's already breaking records before a single minute of college basketball has been logged. Standing at a staggering 7 feet 9 inches tall, Rioux is officially the tallest basketball player on record. Taller than Wembanyama, taller than Tacko Fall, taller than even the legends who once defined what it meant to be a towering force. But here's the question that has NBA scouts, fans, and analysts scratching their heads. Is Rioux too tall to actually make it? Born in Canada in February 2006, Olivier Rioux was never going to live a normal life. At 5 years old, he towered over classmates and teachers. By the age of 8, he was already taller than most grown men. At 12, he hit the 7-foot mark. And by 14, Guinness World Records had officially recognized him as the tallest teenager in the world at 7'5". Now just 18 years old, he's nearly 8 feet tall and still growing. A viral sensation before his teenage years were over, Rioux first drew global attention when videos surfaced of him dominating undersized competition. Clips of him dunking without jumping, blocking shots without lifting his heels off the ground, and barely moving to grab 15 rebounds in a single half circled around NBA Twitter and Instagram faster than the latest crossover highlight. Even Steph Curry took notice, with more questions than answers. But behind the spectacle lies something far more complex than viral potential. Rioux isn't just an internet sensation, he's a walking basketball paradox. His journey began in Canada, but his rise accelerated when he took his game overseas to join Real Madrid's youth basketball program, Europe's premier basketball development system. It was there, playing against some of the top teenage talent in Europe, that he caught the eyes of American scouts. Eventually, he made the leap to IMG Academy in Florida, the same elite sports school that polished the likes of Zach Edey, another Canadian giant who'd eventually dominate college basketball and get drafted by the Memphis Grizzlies. For Rioux, IMG represented an opportunity and a risk. The academy didn't just hand him a uniform, they gave him a program. A full-time training regimen including weightlifting, skill development, endurance drills, and crucially, personalized nutrition to accommodate his unprecedented size. It wasn't enough to be tall anymore. Rioux had to learn to be mobile, to be functional, to be coachable. He progressed slowly, initially logging minutes only during blowouts or exhibition games. But as his body caught up with the pace of the game, coaches began trusting him with more responsibility. Unlike Edey, who didn't even want to play basketball when he first joined IMG, Rioux was all in. He wanted this. And more importantly, he worked for it. The results? Promising, but not perfect. Internationally, Rioux has donned the Canadian jersey at several FIBA youth events. In the 2021 U16 America's Cup, he started all 6 games, averaging 8.3 points, 10.3 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks per contest. His best performance came against Team USA, where he notched a double and 4 blocks against future NBA picks like Robert Dillingham and Ron Holland. Canada lost, but Rioux showed he could compete at a high level. In 2023, he returned for the U19 World Cup, where minutes were scarcer. Competing against older players, including French stars Zachary Rissacher and Alexandre Sarr, the top 2 picks in the 2024 NBA draft, Rioux saw limited floor time but remained efficient. He made 7 of 8 field goals in the entire tournament and had a standout game against Japan with 10 points and 5 rebounds in just over 10 minutes. But by 2024, the expectations were higher, and Rioux didn't fully deliver. In the U18 Americas Championship, his stat line dipped. Against Team USA in the semifinals, he failed to score, had just 6 rebounds and no blocks. That last stat, 0 blocks from a 7'9" player against under-18 competition, was particularly damning. Critics were quick to pounce. How can someone that tall not record a single swat? Despite the disappointing outing, his ranking remained respectable. 247 Sports listed him as a 3-star recruit, ranked 313th nationally, 55th among centers, and 28th in Florida. Not exactly elite, but notably higher than Zach Edey's high school ranking. It's a reminder that upside, especially at this size, often requires patience. Rioux chose to commit to the University of Florida, opting to stay local rather than chase the hype of a higher-profile school. But from the start, it was clear that his presence would be both a blessing and a distraction. Fans chanted his name from the stands during games, pressuring coaches to play him. Coach Todd Golden made the controversial yet wise decision to redshirt Rioux, effectively removing him from the active rotation to preserve eligibility. It was a move made with long-term development in mind, and it paid off. Florida had a stellar year. They won the SEC title. They went 36-4. They captured a national championship. Rioux didn't play, but he practiced, scrimmaged, and grew. He trained with future pros, observed high-level game preparation, and stayed involved every step of the way. The experience, according to staff, was invaluable. Now, entering what will be his first season of eligibility, Rioux has a real opportunity. Not just to log minutes, but to prove that he's more than a gimmick, more than a headline. The reality is, height alone is no longer a ticket to NBA stardom. The game has evolved. Offenses stretch the floor, centers shoot threes, and defensive schemes rely on switching, hedging, and lateral quickness. Players like Victor Wembanyama don't just block shots, they guard point guards, hit step backs, and run the break. This is the standard now. The tragic counterexample? Tacko Fall, another gentle giant, another 7'6" phenom who couldn't adjust to NBA pace. Despite college success, Tacko became a defensive liability. Guards pulled him out to the perimeter, forced switches, and blew past him. His height, once an asset, became a trap. Could Rioux suffer the same fate? That's what scouts are debating. What separates Rioux from his predecessors, however, is intention. His entire development path has been curated from day one. Unlike Robert Bobrovsky, who was largely paraded around as a sideshow during his high school years, Rioux is deeply invested in basketball. He doesn't want to act. He doesn't want to cash in on social media. He wants to play. Every coach he's worked with says the same thing. He listens, he learns, and he works, and that counts for something. Most experts believe Rioux is a long-term prospect. He likely won't declare for the draft after his first season, or even his second. With a redshirt year already under his belt, he'll be 23 or 24 by the time he's NBA ready. That's a lot of development time to improve footwork, to refine his hook shot, to develop defensive instincts. Time to learn how to survive on the perimeter. By then, he might be the first ever 8-foot player in NBA history. Yes, you read that right. People close to him suggest he's still growing. Slowly, but consistently. Which makes this journey all the more uncertain and all the more compelling. The human body isn't designed for that size. Injuries, joint stress, and conditioning all become bigger issues at that scale. Rioux' longevity may depend more on his physiology than his skill set. But if his body holds up, and if the skill, development follows, there's a real chance he gets his shot. In a league always looking for the next unicorn, Rioux isn't just unique, he's mythological, and so the question remains, is Olivier Rioux too tall for the NBA, or just tall enough to rewrite the rulebook? He's a player no one can ignore, not fans, not coaches, not scouts. He is basketball's most literal outlier, and whether or not he becomes a star, one thing is certain, the game has never seen anything like him. If you've followed Olivier Rioux' journey, now's your time to weigh in. Will his story end like Wemby's, redefining the modern big man, or will it mirror Tacko Fall, more novelty than needle mover? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're into deep dive basketball narratives like this one, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because giants still walk among us, and we'll be watching every step.